impact of seasonal tourism on long-term sustainable development, organized by Emerald Publishers and the Department of Hospitality and Tourism Management. It is an honor to have as the keynote speaker Professor Richard here, editor of the journal Worldwide Hospitality Theme. The purpose of the event is to present the results of the special issue in seasonality and Cyprus of the journal, number 14, volume 4, published in 2022. I would like also to welcome our representative from Deputy Ministry of Cyprus of Tourism, Mr. Doros Georgiadis, and from Limassol Tourism Board, Ms. Fiorentina Bouli, and thank them for accepting the invitation to participate and provide a practical insight to this event. Last but not least, I would like to thank the special issue editors, Mr. Janet Garanti and Ms. Galina Berovskina, for being with us today and the authors of the issue. And now I would like to invite the acting coordinator of the department, Associate Professor Antonis Theopoulos, as to give a welcome speech.
Distinguished guests, dear students, dear colleagues, it's a great pleasure to be here for this very interesting event. I would like to thank Katerina Sotiroula for their continuous efforts to promote the department, to engage the department with academia, with academic publishing houses, and also with the industry. It is very important for our department to have the ability to make its presence aware to all the stakeholders of the industry and to all the stakeholders of the academic community. For our students, this event today is very, very important because it makes them aware of the presence of publishing avenues for their work. It brings them closer, much closer to the feeling of and the ability to publish, to make their work known to the wider public, academic and professional public. I'm very excited. I had a very short discussion with the publisher, Mr. Professor Tears, and basically I'm very much excited with the prospect that is there. It has to do with emphasis that is being given to the practitioner side of the tourism and hospitality industry, and the fact that these academic journals are also showing interest from the practitioner side and not just from the academic side. Again, I'm really glad that we have today the opportunity to host this very interesting event. And once again, thank you to Sotiroula and Katerina for all your continuous efforts. Yes, so you will, yeah. In addition to this short welcoming speech, we have grasped this opportunity to present in the form of press event, press conference, a project that is running simultaneously with this event. This gives to me the opportunity to say that as a department, we're quite active. We have many projects running. We have many activities going on. And since these two events have coincided, we are taking this opportunity in a very short to present a very short presentation about this project. As you can see, our audience starts from very small children to the wider community. And this is a great success. Therefore, and I'm very excited that we have such a young audience. So the project that I'm actually presenting now is called Dancing Histories: Guiding Communities and Heritage Through Dancing. This is one of the beauties of our discipline, tourism, that we are purely interdisciplinary. In our department, we have many different disciplines hosted under the same department. So the interests of people with a background in sociology or architecture or economics or human resources, they are actually under the same umbrella. And this is the beauty of our um, academic discipline. Uh, I will talk very briefly about our research center that is hosted in our school, Heraclitus Research Center. We have many projects that they are actually running. We have around 8 projects that they are running. We're trying to include all our members, all the members of our faculty, to have an active participation in various projects. We are in a very good point in and basically involving all our staff. Next, please. The Dancing Histories project started just now in April and is for 3 years until 2026 and is running for 36 months. Next slide, please. We have 13 partners from 11 countries. Next slide. As you can see, we have partners from all around Europe: Italy, Republic of Serbia, Spain, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Poland. We have from Cyprus, Portugal, Greece, Hungary. So it's a very broad participation from various countries. And basically, the aim of the project is to build on the positive experience that we had for a previous project, Herita, under the Creative Bureau. And we want to provide innovation and to add to the existing work on this specific topic by combining heritage sites, local community groups, and visiting dance companies, and also to develop and test on how these constituencies best come together with local variants across 2 additional festivals with multiple locations. So we do have an academic aspect in this project, but at the same time, we do give the opportunity to various groups to come and develop, run festivals at multiple locations. Next slide. The project will be enriched by different perspectives, suggestions, and approaches from the various institutions that they are participating from the 11 countries. And at the end of the projects, the good practices will be detected, documented, the methodologies will be designed, and the results that will be achieved will be shared among the various partners. I will not go through, next slide, I will not go through the various work package breakdown. Is the typical structure of a research or a practical project. We have the dissemination, we have the peer-to-peer learning among professionals, monitoring, evaluation, and assessment. Next slide, please. And that's it. So I had to be a bit fast because we had to combine both events. I didn't want to take from the time of this very interesting event that is following. Again, thank you very much. Okay, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Antonis Socharos. Now, I would like to invite the editor of the Worldwide Hospitality Themes, Professor Richard Thiel.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for hosting today. Thank you all for coming. I was going to say that if the baby starts crying, I know I've been talking for too long, but I think the baby's already left. So anyway, yeah, some slides. So what I'd like to do in just a few minutes is share a little bit about Emerald, a publishing company. It's one of the world's largest publishers, particularly of journals in the management field, but also in other disciplines as well. And second, tell you something about the concept of worldwide hospitality and tourism themes. So that's the journal that's publishing. We're, in a sense, launching what was published last year around this question you can see in the center of the screen. And what we've been seeking to do really since the beginning of this journal is start with a question that is important to practitioners and to government and to policymakers and all the other people that have big challenges. Often people don't really not know what to do given the size and the scale of the challenge. And sustainable development is certainly one of those issues that requires collaboration and cooperation. I'd like to say a big thank you to Zanetti or Janet. She has different ways of pronouncing her name. She's from Latvia originally, and Gilly, who have served as the theme editors. So I kind of refer to these as theme issues rather than special issues, because the aim is that everything in that issue should fit together, each piece kind of connecting to the next piece. And ultimately, we come out at the end in the concluding article with some possible solutions which will be of help to practitioners and to government and others who have to make decisions. And that means that academics cannot do this on their own. So that makes it even harder work to do. There has to be this level of collaboration. I also just wanted to say that everything that we're talking about today, so we could go back to the first slide for a second. Sorry, I should have. Yeah, you can see there's a link there. It says you probably wouldn't have time to write that down, but we can make this available. So all the articles that will be spoken about today, which are contained in the theme issue, will be freely accessible. So you can download them free of cost for 1 month from today. Normally, Emerald charges quite a lot of money for its content, published content, but they will be freely accessible. Yeah, so thank you. So sorry, for the next slide. So as I mentioned, Emerald, it's a publishing company with hundreds of journals. It's strongly committed to sustainable development. And in fact, it's one of the areas of worldwide hospitality and tourism themes that we've really tried to focus on. Because of the impact of tourism, particularly on small island developing nations, its importance, and often the negative impacts of overdevelopment, finding a balance is really quite important. So that's why collaboration is necessary. Just wanted to say also, if you are, we may have some people who, is anyone here yet looking to publish an article and they haven't done so yet? Maybe you're a master's student or you, okay, well, maybe there are a few of you out there. Just I thought before I move on to say a bit more about what, a few tips. So I've been a journal editor for 35 years now, and in that time been involved in 2 journals. What has proven to be really quite successful in the last few years, so we have over 100,000 article downloads every year. But what I often see is people who are keen to publish, often for the first time, taking a kind of a scattergun approach, so they will send an article off or try and submit an article without having first thought carefully about who am I trying to communicate with and what would be the best vehicle, the best journal for my article. So if you are starting out on the road to publishing, one of the things I would suggest is think very carefully about the title of your article and the abstract. So try and make it interesting and intriguing, not a long, complicated title for the actual article itself. Remember, most people downloading articles are students, and if it's boring, they won't download it. So make it interesting. And then before you submit to a journal, try and carefully read the notes for authors or contributors. So you'll usually find those online. and try and ensure that what you've either written or you're about to write is carefully aligned with that journal as far as possible. And if you're not sure, you can always contact the editor and get some advice, even on your abstract before you move forward. So finding the right fit between your work and the journal is key. So I mention this because every week, without fail, I get people submitting things which are articles which are not suitable to the kind of work we're doing. And they haven't actually done any preparation. So that's a tip I would suggest. Think carefully about your title, your abstract, and do some research beforehand to find the right journal before you submit. So this next piece, so worldwide hospitality and tourism themes, is rather different from most academic journals. So for 20 years, I was editor of a journal, and I would say the majority of the articles that were submitted were long and quite dull and didn't address the so what question. So lots of research, lots of data, and no thinking about what does this mean in practice. So I was getting really tired of reading more or less the same stuff. So lots of it had like academic things, but no focus actually on the real world. So I started this journal, Worldwide Hospitality and Tourism Themes, and it's not possible really to progress with this unless there is a dialogue between industry and academia. And so what we're trying to ensure is that everything that's published has some value, adds some value to the industry, to the tourism industry, and is useful to practitioners. And so that's quite different. It's quite hard work as well, trying to get that kind of level of engagement, but it's really worthwhile. So I'll just give you a couple of examples. Go to the next slide. Right from the outset, so we do an annual global trend, so we try and look at global trends in tourism, drawing on the expertise of a large number of industry experts who are invited to a conference from all over the world, and from that we try and distill what's actually happening. So whenever we do a launch type event, we always have limited time free access to articles. The biggest launch event we ever had for a theme issue was attended by 5,000 people. And it happened to coincide with the charter event for a new university in Jamaica in the Caribbean. But what was so interesting was the Prime Minister of Jamaica gave a long speech talking about some of the opportunities and some of the challenges facing Jamaica, its tourism, and its maritime industry. And we were able to present at the event a theme issue that actually addressed one of his questions. So we didn't know he was going to talk about this particular challenge. But it just so happened we were able to say, well, here is something, a part of the solution in the pages of this theme issue. So I think he was really impressed to see this level of collaboration going on. So what you'll hear about in a few minutes is not something that's just been dreamt up by Zanetti and Galina and the writing team, but it's actually a follow-on issue. So what we try and do is start something around sustainable development and then find what needs to happen next. And so the issue that we're talking about today follows on from an issue that was published in 2001. And there was a discussion about ways of making tourism more sustainable. And one of the solutions that was emerged from this discussion was the importance of extending season. So seasonality came in. So you have this, over tourism perhaps in the summer months, and a leaner period of tourism in the winter months. So how can this be evened out? So that's one of the issues that's been addressed in this theme issue. So in sort of summarizing, essentially, pretty much so there's two more slides. So how can Cyprus transition to an all-round destination? I think that's difficult for any island that has obvious attractions in the summer months. But I think what we'll talk about is some of the amazing things that are covered that are going on in villages around the country. Thank you. And really, just to summarize by way of setting up what they're going to talk about next. So what the issue seeks to address is the perspectives of various stakeholders as to how to mitigate the effects of tourism seasonality, and in so doing provide complementary and in-depth perspectives on possible solutions. So I'm a Brit, but I love Cyprus. I've been here lots and lots of times. There's so many interesting and fascinating things here. And I hope what will come out of today is that there's yet more that you can uncover and provide to ensure that you get year-round tourism. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. You will be, as mentioned earlier on, able to access all the articles in this theme issue later. So we'll provide the link to you so you can read this for yourself. So thanks very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Now I invite Galina to continue with her presentation.
Hello, everyone, again. Not gonna say my name again. So I would like to thank everyone, specifically Katerina Soterolo, for inviting us for presenting our follow-up issue. I would like to thank Richard as well for all the opportunities and for the recent opportunity as well. And I just wanted to make an insight of the issue that we wrote in 2021 that focused on sustainability and its opportunities and challenges in Cyprus specifically. As we all know, we talk about sustainability a lot. It's a mainstream topic nowadays, and we wanted to find out with my colleague, Jean de Garanti, and the writing team, what is actually happening in Cyprus in terms of sustainability and what can be offered to sustainability in Cyprus. When we came up with this idea of writing about sustainability, to be honest with you, we did not know what we will find out at first. We had a plan. We would make some kind of interviews, probably make or form focus groups, and we will ask the industry practitioners and stakeholders what are their perspectives on sustainable development of tourism in Cyprus specifically. What we found out after making all this research, after conducting a lot of interviews with stakeholders, with practitioners, we found out that Cyprus is sustainable, but it still has a way to grow. We met a lot of interesting people. They told us our stories. One of the stories was about Platres village and how they converted it to basically lavender kind of village. They started to offer masterclasses on lavender. We went there, we interviewed the people, the responsible people. We found out that we also we can make bee hotels for the bees in one of the villages in Cyprus, Laia village. And the most important that we found out is that Cyprus is not only about the sun and sea, and we can move from the paradigm of sun and sea and see another ways of tourism and develop another ways of tourism. As we all know, moving on to Moving on to this issue, a follow-up issue. Why it's a follow-up issue? Richard has explained already. We wanted to see the alternative ways of tourism that can be developed and offered in Cyprus. And as we all know, the Cyprus being a small island state, the main income is tourism, of course. And according to statistics of 2019, the GDP of Cyprus was primarily from tourism, and it was 23% mostly from tourism. So tourism development is really important, specifically for the states and countries like Cyprus, specifically located in the Mediterranean. And what we want to present you today is the collections of articles that provide an overview of specifically seasonality. Because as mentioned before, Cyprus is unfortunately seasonal, and unfortunately, still a lot of people consider it as just sun and sea, and they don't look beyond that. They are not thinking about Troodos Mountains, for example, and winter resort. We're trying to find out whether it's possible to shift this paradigm of seasonality as well. And we also see the seasonality and its long-term sustainable development in Cyprus. And we offer the suggestions as to what can be done to mitigate, minimize, and tackle the seasonality in Cyprus. And firstly, the issue opens, of course, with introductory article, just for you to get an insight of what will follow. So here we are focusing on how could the Republic of Cyprus reduce the impact of seasonal tourism on long-term sustainable development. Again, with my colleague, thank you very much. And yeah, this is an insight of the issue, an insight of what the issue will follow and what we will discuss, what kind of articles we will discuss, and what we will be looking at. Next slide. Thank you. And the first article we have here, apart from the introduction, we have literature article. The first one is written by our colleagues from Rezekne Academy of Technology in Latvia, in Rezekne City, by Anders Vaiksne and Leonid Litalnets and Ineta Dembowska. So their article is focusing on tourism seasonality and the causes and effects of tourism seasonality, actually. There, they discuss the natural and anthropogenic factors such as climate, environment, and geographical location. Second article is written by our colleagues from India. And here, they wanted to focus on climate change and tourism, and specifically in small island developing states. In their article, they show the importance of climate change and that it has become actually visible, the climate change. They also suggest that tourism stakeholders work with disaster monitoring organizations to identify and prepare in advance for future climatic impacts. And wow, what a surprise. The third article is written by me. And here we have review of data and evidence. So I wanted to focus on tourism seasonality in small island developing states and specifically on Cyprus. So what is the evidence from Cyprus, what we can find in terms of this topic written about Cyprus. And here I basically reviewed the available data about tourism seasonality in small island developing states, and I primarily focused on Cyprus as well. And here I want to add that seasonality is not actually a new term to Cyprus. We've heard about seasonality a lot. And it has been an ongoing issue for decades in Cyprus. So here specifically, we want to focus on seasonality, and that's why I focus on evidence from Cyprus specifically. Moving on, I want to invite my colleague, Janeta Garanti, to talk about the articles, next articles, following articles in the issue.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I would say, what a roller coaster. This publishing, what you see is the end result of approximately 3 years of traveling through villages of Cyprus, interviewing people, meeting different people, coming together with writing team, meeting Sotirola and other people. So it has been 3 years of work to publish this issue, which we are very, very happy to present here and be with you here today. Of course, I have to tell thank you to all the people for opportunities. It always starts with meeting one person and then it extends to different other people. And yes, I would like to also encourage all of you. Publishing is not something only for professors. Everybody starts with their first steps in publishing. So if you ever consider, definitely reach out to your teachers and make sure that you do it. It's challenging, but it's rewarding journey. And continuing on our issue, so the next article written by myself was on different alternative tourism ways in Cyprus. So in this article, I reviewed available data on what kind of alternatives Cyprus has to offer. And let me tell you, there is a lot of things happening. So starting from different activities in the villages, cultural tourism, heritage tourism, health and wellness tourism, and especially events tourism. So people even come to do their weddings in Cyprus. So there are loads of things happening in Cyprus. However, this article concludes on one very important aspect, which is branding. So yes, Cyprus do has a lot of things to offer, but at the same time, people who live in Poland, Slovakia, Latvia, like myself, they still have this image of Cyprus as sun and sea destination, right? So it's not about what we can offer because we obviously can offer a lot. There is a lot of things happening in Cyprus. It's about branding Cyprus as the destination who has lots of things to offer because that's where the problem arises, right? So if people only know it as sun and sea destination, there is no chance they would ever even consider coming in the winter season to explore Troodos Mountains or villages of Cyprus. So that was what this article concluded. The next article leading by Sotirola was on young travelers. So it's not my generation anymore. Some of you fit to this definition of young travelers. A little bit off topic. 2 weeks ago, my niece was visiting me from Latvia. So she is 17 years old, and she came to Cyprus. And she has been here before, so she has seen major tourist attractions. I have taken her. But this time, as a 17 years old, having access to all digital technologies, she came to me with a whole list of TikTok accounts and places she wants to visit because she saw it on TikTok. And let me tell you, that was a very different Cyprus from what I knew before, because those places and those activities and those attractions, which has all the digital technologies involved, are very different from what we know. So it's not about visiting the most historical place. It's about going to a beautiful seaside and taking a great video for your next TikTok post, right? So young travelers and their specific needs, specifically in relation to digital technologies, were explored in this article by Sotirola. And of course, by talking about seasonality, we could not touch the topic of how people reach Cyprus, because as we know from statistics, approximately 97% of the people access Cyprus by air. There is not much other ways you could possibly come here. And which is great because we have great airports, we have Paphos, we have Larnaca, but at the same time, it's quite challenging because majority of the European countries can be accessed by train, by cars, and all the other possible ways. But Cyprus, what is its advantage is also its disadvantage because ensuring that the tourists come here all year round simply means that you also have to have traffic bringing those people here, right? So if there is no flights coming into Cyprus, there is no way we can speak about tackling the tourism seasonality, right? So that was what this article was talking about. And again, what a surprise, Sotirola, together with also Christiana, who is here, a PhD student of this university, and great young researcher. Yes, MS student. Is she? Is she? Okay. Anyway, well, we have at least 2 out of 3 authors. They were also tackling very interesting topic of people with disabilities and how they can possibly access Cyprus and come here and enjoy their holidays. So looking at the statistics, approximately 15% of the population in the world has some kind of disability. It doesn't have to be physical disability, right? So around 15% of the world's population live with some type of disability. But at the same time, as the authors explored in the article, only 0.59% of Cyprus arrivals, so this less than 1%, are people with disabilities. So there is a huge market providing opportunities for people with different types of disabilities. And that's what the authors were discussing. Well, something where my heart stands at, which is gastrotourism. I love eating, obviously, yeah, as you can see. So people love food and people love Cyprus. Cyprus has amazing food. And what in this article, again with Christiana, what we were discussing were the gastrotourism experiences. And what we have concluded is not that we don't have food, we have great food, right? The problem with gastrotourism, however, is that you would rarely go to Kakopetria or to Trodos just for one meal, right? So gastrotourism requires more of a stakeholder involvement. It has to be a whole experience. So you rarely would find a tourist who will take 2 hours bus and then 5 minutes taxi and something else to go to eat a specific meal. However, you can find tourists who stay in Limassol and they would like to try different breakfast places and different dinner places, and different sweets, pastries. So gastrotourism has to be about creating this experience with coordinating with stakeholders. So everything from transportation to actual food and local ingredients to hotels has to work together in something we call cluster or cooperation network in order to provide that experience. Gastrotourism itself hardly can develop if it is remote locations of just food, right? Food, yes, it might be amazing, but it will not bring tourists or interest if it is remote locations with just one place in one village and another place in another village. It has to be an experience aspect. And finally, that was our concluding article where we concluded the main outcomes of this special issue. Again, looking that of course, Cyprus and the policymakers have tried very hard in recent more than 30 years to tackle seasonality. And the debate on tackling seasonality has been especially active in last 3 to 5 years. And in this issue, we try to provide some perspectives on what could be possibly done in order to reduce the seasonality. So I hope we managed to do our task. And yes, thank you very much once again. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you for your introductory note concerning the special issue and the main outcomes of the special issue. Then we go to our practitioners, the real heart of Cyprus in terms of the development and the policy making. We can start from the Deputy Ministry of Tourism and Mr. Dos Georgiadis, who can give us the actual actions of Cyprus concerning the ways that they are trying to minimize and mitigate seasonality, how difficult it is. Galina?
Janet?
Janet.
Janet, Galina.
touching the real headache of ours. The improving seasonality is one of the major issues that we had for decades. And we really feel that the last few years we made a lot of steps forward. Actually, both Richard and the ladies have touched in a different way the problems that we had to face. The first one is how to pass from theory to practice. And the second, touched by the ladies, is how we present and how we promote Cyprus. First of all, we have to change our way of thinking. And this is what we have done the last 3-4 years. First of all, we have changed our logo. I don't know if you are aware of the new logo, but for the first time, there is no sun and sea appearing on our logo. Secondly, I mean, us, the staff of the ministry and also the staff of the private sector, we need to look into this in a different way. I'm more than 100% sure that whenever you are asked what Cyprus has to offer, we start talking about beaches, about sun, about all the activities that everybody can enjoy during summer. This is something that we have to change, and we have to start promoting the real Cyprus. The reason is because there is no need to promote summer. The demand for Cyprus during summer is huge. And if we go back to 19, where we expect to go back this year and to regain all losses we had the last few years, during summer, Cyprus is really fully booked. Our effort and our target is to increase the 4 million arrivals we had in 19 to 5 million within the next decade. And if possible, we want all these additional million to arrive during off-season. So we want to keep the 3 million we already have during summer and to double our off-season performance. Now, how do we get there? First of all, we did a lot and we have improved a lot connectivity, which is #1 problem. Unfortunately, or fortunately, tour operators are not willing to take any risk during winter, so there are not any charter flights during winter. So we had to introduce new scheduled flights, and this is something that we did very successfully the last few years. We had 2 huge low-cost airlines like Ryanair and Wizz Air opening bases in Cyprus. They have based now 4 aircrafts each in Cyprus. And this have, let's say, increased our flights by over 100 weekly flights during winter, which is amazing number of flights and capacity. We did also a lot to improve the product. First of all, we offer incentives to hoteliers to improve their product by including and improving facilities for off-season, for their off-season needs. Like, for example, heated pools, swimming pools. I don't know if any of you is aware of the Heartland of Legend project. I would ask you to visit later on the webpage, heartlandoflegend.com, which is, let's say, an amazing project that we have started working on it a couple of years ago. It's an ongoing project, and actually is a huge route in which all activities that can be found within this route can be easily located. And this is what we're working on by improving all these activities. By activities, I mean really anything you can find in this route. Fishing, handcrafting, walking, biking, wineries, any activities that can be found is listed, and we are still inviting new enterprises, and who are working on this project. We hope that this will help us attract a lot of tourists during winter. There are so many things that we already did, and I would need a couple of hours to describe them, but I would need a couple of days to tell you what should be done in addition to what we already did. But okay, I don't want to keep any longer. I just want to overemphasize what I said earlier about the importance of changing the way ourselves look into Cyprus and to promote Cyprus. Thank you.
Continue with this, Fiorentina, before the Limassol tourism for concerning the case of Limassol and the involvement in terms of seasonality.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Congratulate for this very interesting volume. All the topics that you covered, we have been thinking of these topics, I have to say, and discussing through. I'm representing the Limassol Tourist Company, and I would like to inform you that we're working on the alternative ways of tourism. As already mentioned, changing our way of thinking is the starting point. I also do agree, and I consider this very important. The image of Limassol or Cyprus as well to foreigners is extremely important. As an organization, we are promoting Limassol on the one hand to travelers, to tourists. We're doing this through exhibitions, through roadshows, through press trips with different ways. But on the other hand, what we're working the last years is through experiences. We're organizing different activities, trips, focusing on experiences regarding tourism. One of the aspects that we're working a lot is, for example, yesterday we were visiting Pareklisha village, a village that is very near to Limassol city, and we were exploring the development of a walking trail in the village. This was a very nice experience. We're developing the trail so tourists can go and walk through 6 kilometers approximately and enjoy a very beautiful view. And at the same time, there were workshops happening at the center of the village where a visitor can combine and experience different activities. This is one of our main aims for this of our activities, promoting Limassol through different, using the social media, using TikTok, using Instagram. That's very important, including technology. So branding is one of our main issues, as it was already mentioned, and it's something that we need to concern and rethink. We agree with all the things that were spoken. As part of the organization of promoting Limassol and developing Limassol, again, we are focusing on the experience, not only the hiking experience I said previously. I could also provide a list of all of our activities, focusing on cycling tourism, diving tourism. We, together with other projects that we're running, we're developing different activities for tourism. I don't want to take more from your time. If you have anything that you want to share, thanks again for your time.
an extra remark to your concerning the case. Concluding.
Well, again, thank you very much for listening, and a huge thank you to Cicerola and team for hosting today. Let's give you a round of applause. Yeah, I think it's encouraging to hear about some of the developments. Changing the way Cypriots think about the country, the mindset issue, is not something I'd really thought about before. But as you were saying, because of the massive demand in the summer months, it's much more about what do we do in the other months of the year to attract people. And as a very keen walker, it's great to hear about the walking trails and activities that are being developed. Are there still challenges though that need to be addressed? Just thinking about the possibilities for continuing this strand of work, which involves a whole range of stakeholders, academics, practitioners, policymakers, people who are leading for tourism development. Are there still things that need to be done?
This is the most difficult part. We always have to face this chicken and egg situation. Who's going to start and who's going to lose money first? Because we're talking now about the investment. Winter is a quite difficult period. This is why I said earlier that there are no charter flights. There's no tour operator ready to take any risk. Just to give you an example of the difficulties, a few years back, there was a tour operator, no need to mention a name, decided to have a whole charter operation during winter. He started the flight, the charter operation, and after he started, all or most of the hotels he cooperated with, they decided to close. He lost a couple of millions, and he decided not to proceed. So this is the most difficult part, to help everybody understand. I'm talking about the whole chain, tour operator, airlines, and hoteliers, that if we want to succeed, we need to invest at the beginning. Most probably, we'll all have to lose some money. We should not expect one of the link to lose the money and the rest of us just to have profits. So this is your question, Richard. This is the difficult part.
Did you want to?
From Professor Theocharous concerning technology and seasonality.
Very interesting, the approach that this edited volume has taken, and I'm really looking forward to read it through. One aspect that probably can be included in a future edition is how technology can help alleviate the issue of seasonality. Mr. Georgiadis has mentioned the consistent and this one. It's the first time it's like talking to a press conference, so I feel important now. So has mentioned the attempts by the Deputy Minister of Tourism to invest on enhancing tourism experience by applications, GIS applications and online applications to enhance touristic experience. Basically, it's a project that will collaborate with the Deputy Minister of Tourism. It's called Hardware of Legends, who are working on it. We'll have a meeting on the 24th of April to take this project one step further by developing it as a point-to-point navigation on mobiles, where all this information will be included and will also offer more detailed guidance to any local or foreign tourists. The utilization of GIS, the utilization of technology, is one way, a very important and very promising way of tackling seasonality. The issue of tour operators has also been mentioned, and the role that they have. Their role hasn't been always positive and constructive for the tourism industry of Cyprus. One way of, let's say, disengaging from the huge power that the tour operators have is also to utilize technology and help independent tourism traveling, which is again an aspect that we have to consider very carefully. With the development of online applications, the Cyprus Deputy Ministry on Tourism will be basically collecting information about individual travelers, individual tourists, and this information, and we know that information is gold in our times. They will be able to engage into direct marketing. I'm sure that our students have done marketing, and they know that direct marketing is very, very important and has very positive results. Thank you.
Any questions from you, from the audience, from the students, just to make an interactive discussion concerning the topic of today's event? Students.
Oh, adiós. Wow. I know how you feel, Andon. Brogovic Christo, I'm an assistant professor of tourism at the university here. My question goes for you, Mr. Rosman. It can be also answered by the rest. From an academic perspective and by reading different kinds of research, we have seen that there is a correlation between the increased number of tourists at the destination with a negative impact and definitely unsustainable development. And you mentioned that one of the priorities of the ministry is to increase the number of tourists, or the aspiration, if you like, of the ministry from 4 million to 5 million. And probably it will be higher in the subsequent years. Don't you think that an increase of a constant increase of inflows of tourists will bring its share of negative impact, whether towards the environment or the social society or the communities, especially if we know that despite the admirable efforts of the destination to channel the tourists to the countryside and the non-urban areas, most of the most of the tourists will stay in urban or specific areas such as Ayanapa, Prodaras, Paphos. And along with that will bring further construction of buildings, further infrastructure, further tourist inflation, and so it goes on. So I would like your practical and viewpoint regarding that.
On the contrary, what I said is that we want to increase by 5% of tourist arrivals, but we want all these, if possible, all these additional arrivals to be really. So we do understand the problem. We don't want tourism. We are sure that it's going to damage our product. We destroy it. The country, unfortunately, living in tourism. We have to protect our product. So definitely, we agree that we cannot afford more tourism during summer. But we have no problem, I mean, adding during winter. And by doing this, if we succeed, we will manage also to help, especially the youth, to stay in their villages and to develop their business in their areas. So this is the main target, and this is what we try to do also with the project I mentioned earlier, the Carta Regression, by offering incentives to them to open new business or to, let's say, keep the tradition in a way.
Okay, thank you.
Wow, two. Yeah. There's a annuity. Hello, and thank you for the amazing presentations and for the work that you are doing. As you know, we are working with the university on a small, relatively small project about the engagement of the local communities in creating stories for local development. So I think we are definitely in line. So we were wondering, what about the local tourism? What about, in the last years of COVID, we have learned about stay vacations and terminologies like that, which recall the development of the local tourists and local communities finding new ways to discover or rediscover their heritage, their places. So